Yes, you guys. And guess what? The Senate passes a resolution condemning Russian imprisonment of American who used medical marijuana as an opioid alternative, you guys. That's right. The U.S. Senate has approved a resolution calling for the release of a U.S. citizen incarcerated over marijuana in Russia, emphasizing that he was a lawful medical cannabis patient in Pennsylvania using state legal products as an opioid alternative. About 2 months after the legislation from Senator Bob Casey, Democrat from Pennsylvania, cleared committee, the full chamber passed the resolution under unanimous consent on Tuesday. Great job, Senate. The measure also calls on President Joe Biden's federal government to step up efforts to secure his release. The resolution says the 14-year sentence that Mark Fogel received after being convicted of large-scale drug smuggling over possession of a half ounce of cannabis is politically motivated and disappropriate, especially when taking into account the fact that he was using marijuana for medical purposes in accordance with a doctor's recommendation. I don't know why that would even come into play when it comes to Russia, but whatever. In a quote, Mark Fogel has undergone 3 back surgeries, a spinal fusion, a hip replacement, and 2 knee surgeries to correct various injuries and health issues, which have left him with chronic back pain and a permanent limp. The measure says, and he did not wish to use opioids to manage his pain and was instead prescribed medical marijuana for pain management in a manner consistent with the state law of Pennsylvania. Fogel, in quotes, stated he intended that marijuana solely for personal consumption, and the government of the Russian Federation has presented no evidence to the contrary. The resolution reads, yet he received a 14-year sentence following a politicized show trial, in quotation marks. Casey, speaking on the Senate floor on Wednesday, a day after the resolution's passage, said that Fogel, in quotes, had medically prescribed marijuana in his luggage to help him through the year in dealing with his chronic pain. That pain came from a hip replacement. It came from multiple back surgeries, multiple knee surgeries, and a spinal fusion, which has left Mark with a permanent limp, the senator said. Mark's worsening medical conditions and actions to bring in less than an ounce of marijuana into Russia should not require him to serve the full 14-year sentence and a Russian penal colony. 14 years imprisonment for less than an ounce of marijuana, he says. The resolution also points out that Russian lawyer informed Fogel's family that the typical sentence for a low-level cannabis possession offense in the country is 5 years of probation, and that Russia has levied lesser sentences on people charged with possession of 1,500 grams of various narcotics, they say. In a quote, Mark Fogel's sentence was vastly disproportionate to the severity of his nonviolent crime, widely dissimilar to the typical punishments for comparable offenses in Russia, and clearly motivated by ongoing political tensions between Russia and the United States, it says. The measure calls on Russia to immediately release Fogel and for the White House and State Department to, in quotes, press for his immediate release in all interactions with the government on the Russian Federation. It further urges the government of the Russian Federation to desist from issuing outlandishly disappropriate criminal sentences to nonviolent United States citizens and condemns the government of the Russian Federation continued use of detentions and prosecutions of citizens and lawful permanent residents of the United States for political purposes. The resolution was introduced last July, shortly after a family of Fogel visited the White House to meet with high-level officials and also raise attention to his case with members of Congress. While the Senate version has now been enacted, a House companion version has not yet advanced in that chamber. Casey said in a press release that after nearly 3 years of captivity, Mark's health is rapidly declining and his life is in danger. I urge President Biden and his administration to do everything possible to bring Mark home, he said. Meanwhile, a separate coalition of more than 20 U.S. senators filed a different resolution in April condemning the arrest of the American citizen in Russia, including Fogel. Lawmakers have made repeated pleas to the State Department to escalate Fogel's case, including formally designating him as wrongfully detained, and the resolution also urges that designation. They've pointed out that that his situation is comparable to that of WNBA player Brittany Grenier, who also served time in a Russian prison over possession of cannabis oil that she also lawfully obtained as a medical marijuana patient in Arizona before being released as part of a prisoner swap that the Biden administration negotiated. Signatories also filed a bill in June that would require the Senate or the State Department to explain to Congress why it has not designated Fogel as well as other Americans detained abroad as wrongfully detained. Senator Steve Daines, a Republican from Montana and former U.S. ambassador to Russia, Michael Fowl, also sent a letter to the Secretary of State imploring the administration to immediately escalate diplomatic efforts to secure Fogel's return. And this article goes on and on and on, talking about all this and all these things that these federal officials are doing in regards to. And you can read the full article on our website at www.highat9news.com. But we're going to go into some comments, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. This is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News. What do y'all say about this?
I don't want to even get into like whataboutism, about like Brittany Griner, Jared Fogle, like all that stuff. Like, number one, why are people still going over to Russia? Everything that's going on. Mm-hmm. Number two, why would anybody be bringing weed to Russia? Mm-hmm. Like, what the fuck is going to happen? And now we're expending our resources as a country, and you're going to have the political blowback from this, from a country that doesn't even have it federally legal, and you have a bunch of people in Washington that are still against this. It's hard to make that case on the grand scale of things when you're not allowing people to get medicine here in the United States. Mm-hmm. Just look like a bunch of hypocrites. That's all I'm gonna say on it.
My advice is don't get on the plane with weed intentionally. That's pretty fucking stupid.
You know what I find interesting about this, Dale, is that all of these federal officials are now claiming as medical marijuana as that it should be okay because it's medical marijuana and it's licensed in their state. It's like the federal government doesn't even acknowledge that. So why would they expect the Russian government to acknowledge that?
Right.
Well, it's like traveling to the Cayman Islands with ammunition in your bag. Mm-hmm. Like, you think we're all sort of not accustomed to, people aren't going to fuck with you over this stuff. You get on a plane and leave, or you get onto a cruise ship or something like that, and you end up in handcuffs, and then, I didn't know. Well, let me be clear. Turn the volume up. Don't fucking travel with weed. Mm-hmm. Okay? It's that simple. If you do and get in trouble, how much sympathy's in the dictionary between shit and syphilis, okay? Mm-hmm. If you're told not to do it and you get pinched, it's like, okay, now what? Have your retainer, okay, let's get you some bail money, and let's work on, did your mama drop you on your head a lot when you were a child? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yep. I feel you on that, Dale.
There's a difference between shit and syphilis.
You have any thoughts on this, Stone?
I don't think I can say anything that Dale didn't cover. I mean,
okay.
Well,
obviously, I'll throw another curveball out there for you.
Don't go to Russia, and especially don't go to Russia if you need weed to live. I mean,
I'll throw another curveball out there for you. Tucker Carlson had an interview with President Vladimir Putin, and
it was not an interview. That was not an interview. That was propaganda.
Okay, whatever you want to call it. I'm calling it an interview. And they brought up Mark Fogel in that interview, and Vladimir Putin is pretty adamant of the fact that Mark Fogel was a U.S. spy spying on Russia in regards to, and I bet you that's the reason why they're holding him on this 15-year sentence as opposed to a 5-year sentence.
But you can be a spy. You get out off the plane and look around, you're a spy. I mean, come on, man. That's an excuse.
I agree with that too, and it's easy for Russia to say, but at the same time, with the things that have happened in the last 48 hours in regards with Russia and Ukraine situation, I don't see how the U.S. has any leverage with Russia whatsoever to get any of our people back.
No, we should have gotten more for the Merchant of Death.
100%, Stone.
What we got?
100%. I totally agree with you on that one, buddy.
Oh no, man!
But you got to be willing to use a baseball bat if you're going to be in charge of this shit. If you're limp wrist and pusillanimous, then you swap whatever you can to get a headline. It's like you're not fixing shit by giving so much up for getting nothing back. And I might add, I've traveled the world when I had prescription medications. I registered them as I traveled, as I got my visas. And if the United States actually had a prescription you could take with you, and the world recognized it, you could travel with weed.
Yep.
But it's not a prescription drug. It just doesn't fit all the paradigms. No matter how much you want to wish and hope it's going to be so, the reality is it ain't so.
Well, Dale, it will be once it moves to Schedule 3.
About to say
Yeah,
that.
right.
I think that the U.S. even bringing this up is setting dangerous precedent and saying that Americans can go anywhere in the world and disregard the rules and the laws that are on the ground when they land. Is what I think.
But we still have the single convention out there too. That hasn't been fixed. I mean, it says we're not supposed to be doing this if you follow the convention we signed back in '60, because now they're making it legal, and it's a muddled up mess right now. And just don't travel with weed, because if you get caught, it's like I don't know what to tell you, man. You were warned.